Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. Chapter 10, Part 2. Papa sat on a bench in the barn, his broken leg stretched awkwardly before him, mending one of Jack's harnesses. He had been there since early morning, a frown line carved deep into his forehead, quietly mending those things which needed mending. Mama told us not to bother him, and we stayed away from the barn as long as we could, but by late afternoon, we drifted naturally to it and began our chores. Papa had disappeared within himself, and he took no notice of us at first, but shortly afterward, he looked up, watching us closely. When the chores were almost finished, Mr. Morrison arrived from Strawberry, where we had gone to make the August mortgage payment. He entered the barn slowly and handed Papa an envelope. Papa glanced up questioningly, then ripped it open. As he read the letter, his jaw set tightly. When he finished, he smashed his fist so hard against the bench that the boys and I stopped what we were doing, aware that something was terribly wrong. "They tell you?" he asked of Mr. Morrison, his voice curt, angry. Mr. Morrison nodded. "I tried to get 'em to wait till after cotton picking, but they told me it was due and payable immediately. Them's they words." "Harlem Granger," said Papa quietly. He reached for his cane and he stood up. "You feel up to going back to Strawberry tonight?" Oh, I can make it, but I don't know if this old mule can." "Then hitch Lady to it," he said, motioning to the mare. He turned then and went to the house. The boys and I followed, not quite sure of what was happening. Papa entered the kitchen. We stayed on the porch, peering through the screen. "David, something the matter, son?" "The bank called up the note. I'm going to Strawberry." "Called up the note?" echoed Big Mama. "Oh, Lord, not that too." Mama stared at Papa, fear in her eyes. "You going now?" "Now," he said, leaving the kitchen for their room. Mama's voice trailed him. "David, it's too late. The bank's closed by now. You can't see anyone till the morning." We could not hear Papa's reply, but Mama's voice rose sharply. "You want to be out on that road again in the middle of the night after what happened? You want us worried to death about you?" "Mary, don't you understand? You're trying to take the land," Papa said, his voice rising too, so that we heard. "Don't you understand? I don't want you dead." We could hear nothing else, but a few minutes later, Papa came out and told Mr. Morrison to unhitch Lady. They would go to Strawberry in the morning. The next day, Papa and Mr. Morrison were gone before I arose. When they returned in the late afternoon, Papa sat wearily down at the kitchen table, with Mr. Morrison beside him. Rubbing his hand over his thick hair, he said, "Well, I called Hammer." "What did you tell him?" Mama asked. "Just that the note's been called. He said he'd get the money." "How?" "He didn't say, and I didn't ask. Just said he'd get it." "And Mr. Higgins at the bank, David?" said Big Ma. "What'd he have to say?" "Said our credit's no more good." "We aren't even hurting them Wallaces now," Mama said with acid anger. "Harlan Granger's got no need." "Baby, you know he's got need," Papa said, pulling her to him. "He got a need to show us where we stand in the scheme of things. He's got a powerful need to do that. Besides, he still wants this place." "But son, this marriage give us 4 more years." "But son, this mortgage give us 4 more years." Papa laughed dryly. "Mama, you want me to take it to court?" Big Ma sighed and placed her hands on Papa's. "Well, what if Hammer can't get that money?" Papa did not look at her, but at Mr. Morrison instead. "Don't worry, Mama. We ain't gonna lose this land. Trust me." On the third Sunday of August, the annual revival began. Revivals were always very serious, yet gay and long planned for affairs, which brought pots and pans from out of the way, Shells, mothball packed dresses, and creased pants from hidden chests, and all the people from the community and the neighboring communities up the winding red road to Great Faith Church. The revival ran for 7 days, and it was an occasion everyone looked forward to, for it was more than just church service. It was the year's only planned social event, disrupting the humdrum of everyday country lives. Teenagers courted openly, adults met with relatives and friends they had not seen since the previous year's big meeting, and the children ran almost free. As far as I was concerned, the best part of the revival was the very first day. After the first of three services was dismissed, the mass of humanity which had squished its way into the sweltering interior of the small church poured into the school grounds, and the women proudly set out their dinners in the backs of wagons and on long tables circling the church. Then it was a feast to remember. Brimming bowls of turnip greens and black-eyed peas with ham hocks and thick slices of last winter's sugar-cured ham and strips of broiled ribs and crispily fried chicken and morsels of golden square and rabbit and flaky buttermilk biscuits and crusty cornbread, flat slabs of sweet potato pie and butter pound cakes, and so much more were all for the taking. No matter how low the pantry supplies, each family always managed to contribute something. And as far as the churchgoers go, we all made the rounds from table to table. Hard times were forgotten, at least for this day. The boys and I had just loaded our plates for the first time and taken seats under an old walnut when Stacy put down his plate and stood up again. "What's the matter?" I asked, stuffing my mouth with cornbread. Stacy frowned into the sun. "That man walking up the road." I took a moment to look up, then picked up my drumstick. "So?" "He looks like Uncle Hammer," he cried and dashed away. I hesitated, watching him, reluctant to leave my plate unless it was really Uncle Hammer. When Stacy reached the man and hugged him, I too put my plate down and I ran across the lawn to the road. Christopher John with his plate still in his hand, and little man ran after me. "Uncle Hammer, where's your car?" little man asked. After we all hugged him. "Sold it," he said. "Sold it?" we cried in unison. But why?" asked Stacy. "Needed the money," Uncle Hammer said flatly. As we neared the church, Papa met us and embraced Uncle Hammer. "I wasn't expecting you to come all the way down here. What, you expected me to send you some money by mail?" "Well, you could have wired it." "I don't trust that either." "How'd you get it?" "Borrowed some of it, sold a few things," he said with a shrug. Then he nodded towards Papa's leg. "How'd you do that?" Papa's eyes met Uncle Hammer's, and he smiled faintly. I was sort of hoping you wouldn't ask that." "Uh-huh." "Papa," I said. "Uncle Hammer sold the Packard." Papa's smile faded. "I didn't mean for that to happen, Hammer." Uncle Hammer put his arm around Papa. "What good's a car? It can't grow cotton. You can't build a home on it, and you can't raise four fine babies on it." Papa nodded, understanding. "Now you gonna tell me about that leg?" Papa stared at the milling throng of people around the dinner tables. Let's get you something to eat first," he said. "Then I'll tell you. Maybe it'll be better with some of this good food in your stomach." Because Uncle Hammer was leaving early Monday morning, the boys and I were allowed to stay up much later than usual to be with them. Long hours after we should have been in bed, we sat on the front porch, lit only by the whiteness of the full moon, and listening to the comforting sounds of Papa and Uncle Hammer's voices mingling once again. "We'll go up to Strawberry and make the payment first thing tomorrow," said Papa. "I don't think I'd better go all the way to Vicksburg with this leg, but Mr. Merson will take you there. See you to the train." "You don't have to do that," replied Uncle Hammer. I can make it to Vicksburg all right, but I'd rest easy if I knew you was on that train headed north. Headed due north, not off getting yourself to do something foolish. Uncle Hammer grunted. There ain't nothing foolish to what I like to do to them Wallaces. Harlan Granger either. There was nothing to say to how he felt, and no one tried. What you plan to do for money? Uncle Hammer asked after a while. Well, the cotton looking good, said Papa. We do well on it. We'll make it all right. Uncle Hammer was quiet a moment before he observed, just tightening the belts. Just tightening the belts some more, huh? When Papa did not answer, Uncle Hammer said, maybe I better stay. No, said Papa adamantly. You do better in Chicago. May do better, but I worry a lot. He paused, pulling at his ear. Come through Starbeard with the fellow from up in Vicksburg. Things seem worse than usual up there. It gets hot like this and folks get satisfied with life. They start looking around for somebody to take it out on. I don't want it to be you. I don't think it will, said Papa, unless you stay. In the morning, after the men had gone to bed, Big Ma said to Mama, I sure wish that Hammer could have stayed longer. It's better he went, said Mama. Big Mama nodded. I know. Things like this, things like they is, I don't take but a little bit of nothing to set things off. And Hammer, with that temper, he could do it. Still, she murmured wistfully, I sure do wish he could have stayed. On the night of the revival, the sky took on a strange yellowish cast. The air felt close, suffocating, and no wind stirred. What do you think, David? Mama asked after she and Papa stood on the front porch looking at the sky. You think we should go? Papa leaned against his cane. It's gonna storm all night. It's gonna storm all right, but it may not come till late on over in the night. They decided we would go. Most other families had come to the same decision, for the church grounds were crowded with wagons when we arrived. Brother Logan, one of the deacons, called as Papa stepped awkwardly down from the wagon, Reverend Gapson. Reverend Gapson wanted us to get the meeting started as soon as we could so we could dismiss early and get on home for the storm hit. All right, Papa said, directing us toward the church. But as we neared the building, we were stopped by the Laniers. As the grown-ups talked, little Willie Wiggins and Mo Turner, standing with several other boys, motioned to Stacy from the road. Stacy wandered away to speak to them, and Christopher, John, Little Man, and I went too. Guess who we seen? Said Little Willie as Stacy walked up. But before Stacy could venture a guess, Little Willie answered his own question. TJ and them Sims brothers. Where? Asked Stacy. Over there, Little Willie pointed. They parked by the classrooms. Look, here they come. All the eyes followed the direction of Little Willie's finger. Through the settling dusk, 3 figures assembled with pure assurance across the wide lawn, the 2 Simses on the outside, TJ in the middle. How come he bringing them here? Asked Mo Turner angrily. Stacy shrugged. Don't know, but I guess we'll find out. He looks different, I remarked when I could see TJ more distinctly. He was dressed in a pair of long, unpatched trousers, and as sticky hot as it was, he wore a suit coat and a tie, and a hat cocked jauntily to one side. I suppose he do look different, murmured Mo bitterly. I'd look different too if I'd been busy stealing other folks' stuff. Well, what we got here? Exclaimed TJ loudly as he approached. Y'all gonna welcome to y'all's revival services? What you doing here, TJ? Stacy asked. TJ laughed. I got a right to come to my own church, ain't I? See all my old friends. His eyes wandered over the group, but no one showed signs of being glad to see him. His wide grin shrank a little. Then, spying me, he patted my face with his moist hand. Hey, Cassie, girl, how you doing? I slapped his hand away. Don't you come messing with me, TJ, I warned. Again, he laughed, then said soberly, well, this is a fine how do you do. I come all the way over here to introduce my friends RW and Melvin. And y'all acting like y'all ain't got no manners at all. Yeah, ORW. Yeah, ORW and Melvin, he says, rolling the Sims' names slowly off his tongue to bring to our attention. They had not bothered to place a Mister before either. They been mighty fine friends to me, better than any of y'all. Look, see here what they give me? Proudly, he tugged at the suit coat. Pretty nice stuff, eh? Everything I want they give me, 'cause they really likes me. I'm their best friend. He turned to the Simses. Ain't that right, RW and Melvin? Melvin nodded, a condescending smirk on his face, which was lost on TJ. Anything, just anything at all I want. They'll get it for me, including. He hesitated, as if he was unsure whether or not he was going too far, then plunged on, including that pearl-handled pistol in Barnett's mercantile. RW stepped forward and slapped a reassuring hand on TJ's shoulder. That's right, TJ. You named it, and you've got it. TJ grinned widely. Stacy turned away in disgust. Come on, he said. Service about to start. Hey, what's the matter with y'all? TJ yelled as the group turned en masse and headed for the church. I glanced back at him. Was he really such a fool? All right, TJ, said Melvin as he walked away. You come down here like you asked. Now you come on into Strawberry with us like you promised. It don't make no difference, sputtered TJ. What? Said RW. You coming, ain't you? You still want that pearl-handled pistol, don't you? Yeah, but then come on, he ordered, turning with Melvin and headed for the pickup. But TJ did not follow immediately. He remained standing in the middle of the compound, his face puzzled and undecided. I had never seen him look more desolately alone, and for a fleeting second, I felt almost sorry for him. When I reached the church steps, I looked back again. TJ was there, an indistinct blur blending into the gathering north, and I began to think that perhaps he would not go to the Simses. But when the rude squawk of the truck's horn blasted the quiet evening, and TJ turned his back on us and fled across the field.